snowy? Yeah, I know. It's stupid, isn't it? First day of spring today. You guys know that? Well, now you do. And you can tell by looking outside. My emails. Yes. No. Check your email because I sent out an email. And if for some reason you didn't get it, then there's something wrong. You never know with like SU email stuff. There can be glitches. Okay, but generally you should check your email because now we're sort of getting towards the end of the semester. And it's starting to get critical, and some of you, not all of you, are in a situation that you should be paying attention to with your grades, okay? And so I individually emailed every single person in this room who's probably not in this room because they're probably the ones who are absent a lot, and maybe not, who are having some issues. So you have to check your email. And then you have to make an appointment with me if I've asked you to make an appointment with me, because I personally, as a professor, am not here to fail anyone. In fact, that's my agenda is to not. So that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to make you succeed. And so if you're having trouble or if you're behind, then you make an appointment with me and we catch up and you're on your way. Is that understood? You guys, are you doing your attendance March? We're at the end of March. Everybody has a calendar. And where we are at is that today is the 21st, so that's Tuesday. So today we're gonna do modernism. Basically, we're on our last module. Module 10 is our very last module. But it's a long module, okay? Because modernism is a long thing, and it's current today. It never ends. So we're starting at the turn of the century, 1900, and we're going all the way to the present moment and into the future. And so that's where we're at, and that's what we're going to do from now on to the end of the semester. And we have limited time. Next Tuesday is no school. Right? You guys know that? Well, now you do. Check your calendars and don't come to school. That is the day of excellence. So you can come to SU. We're pretty much going to finish the modules and the classes around April 4th. Like, we're going to be done with this lecture, let me teach you about each art style, by April 4th. Okay, so you really need to come to class. Okay? I'm kind of like upset. You really need to come to class and participate because some of you are not doing well with your grades, and I don't want to see that. I want to see you succeed. But you actually have to be here for me to help you. I can't help you if you don't come to class. Okay, so April 4th, we're pretty much done with a portion, the style we've been doing. What's the style we've been doing? I'm showing you the artwork from the time period and the sociology, psychology, collective consciousness that's happening at the same time, right? You guys like that part? Some people appreciate it, some people don't. It's just my style. Okay. So then after that, we're going to do a review. All right. So I want everybody to be here for that. We're going to do a big lecture review where we're going to go all the way from the first slide to the last one. We're going to put it into a concise format. So we're going to review the history of art throughout time. So please be present for that. Then we have 2 weeks left of class, and people are going to be giving presentations. Please be present for that. Can you handle that? Can you be present? Can you come to class for other people's presentations? I would appreciate it. One of the reasons I do this is because we actually sum up the course through you expressing yourself instead of me blabbing. You are basically going to show, and I give extra credit. I don't know what it's going to be yet. I'm going to think about it. Okay, I'm going to look at everybody, what you guys need, and I'm going to think about the number. But everybody's going to get extra credit for presenting, so that will help boost your grade at the very end. So that will cover like an absence, or an assignment you missed and you just refuse to do for whatever reason that you choose. Many of you do just refuse to do assignments. So that can cover that. Not all of you, I know I'm yelling at some of you and you're like, I always do my work. Then I'm not talking to you. Okay. And that's that. Any questions on that? No questions on that at all.
You can change theses and stuff like that, right?
If you talk to me, yes. Okay, some of you turned in your thesis and you have a 0 or you have a 10. Why would that be? Because there's no thesis. There's no thesis. So you have an issue. So you have to fix it. You can do it 2 ways. Sometimes I will suggest a thesis in my little comments, so read them. And sometimes you might have to come and talk to me. Why isn't this a thesis? This is not a biography. We're not doing a biography, that's boring. Okay, that's high school. We're not doing biography, we're doing thesis statement. Thesis statement is a question that you answer yourself in the first paragraph. So you have a question, you answer it yourself. Then you prove the answer to the audience. Is that understood? It's not a biography of the artist. Any questions on that? You should be asking the questions. If you got a low grade, resubmit. Until you get it right, I will keep giving you a low grade. That's how I'm doing this. I'm keep changing your grade until you get it right. So it's a little different than other professors maybe. Okay. Let's get out of here. Side note before we get back into modernism. I'm going to show you a little side note, okay? So we talked about the world fairs. Oh, one more thing, there's a test. Did everybody see the test? Okay. If I were you, I would take the test. The way I set it up is I have 3 tries, and then you get to see the answer at the end, and you don't get to see the answer till the end, and after you've given it 3 tries. So you give it your first try, and you are like, this is really confusing to me. Guess what you can do? You can come talk to me. Imagine that. Or you could raise your hand in class if you're not shy, and you could say, hey, I have a question about that test. This doesn't make sense to me. And then we can dialogue together. One of the things that I'm a little frustrated about this class is that people don't want to speak and use their language and their mouth and their words and dialogue. About 5 people in this class speak. Okay, but I understand some people are shy. So I'm trying not to get angry. Okay, so here we have the World Fairs. So this beautiful thing besides that in the middle is the Ringling Museum. World Fairs, we're talking about the turn of the century. We're talking about technology. We're talking about the Eiffel Tower. Okay, so the Eiffel Tower, it's no conspiracy. Look it up on Wikipedia. It is a remnant of the World Fair. Now, what kind of remnants of the World Fair is it? You can fight about that amongst yourselves. Okay, we talked a lot about how a lot of the buildings have like gold top on the buildings, or they look like, what is gold, you know, and silver? It produces electricity, energy, it's a conductor, okay? So, what is this? This is World Fairs. This is, I'm just showing you sort of like the internet's Britannica version of it, but you can look that up yourself, it's available. I want to talk about something else. Who's heard of orphan trains? Okay, so now I'm not mad at you anymore, now I'm mad at your school. It's okay, I'm not mad. I'll just practice my Tibetan Buddhism. Orphan trains. Have you ever heard the term America's melting pot? Did you ever know or ask why that is called that? Why is America called the American melting pot? anybody know what's connected to the orphan trains? Anybody have any clue what happened in your country? I know you guys have a little clue. I know you have pieces of it, but I'm gonna put it all together for you in a nice little package. Then we'll get to the art, because the art is connected to this. I'm not gonna show you the whole video, but I wanna talk about New York.
In America, supplying you with ample information taken directly from the currently accepted resources to provide you with a definitive look at one of the strangest and seldom discussed events of the mid-1800s. That is, the orphan trains.
We'll watch a little bit, I'm gonna
Many
be stopping.
photographs of America from the 19th century.
Take a look at this photograph. So now we start to have photographs. So photographs are evidence.
Shocking than you expect. The architecture aside, we're told that a disproportionate amount of people were locked away in mental
I'm
asylums.
not kidding about that. It's a very serious thing that was going on. And I said, I talk a lot about women, but it's not just women. I mean, if you came out as gay, you'd be put in a mental asylum real fast. Or anything that was different, or anything at all, for any reason. So mental asylums are huge. And this is actually how they steal the land in America, is through the mental asylums, okay? Because all these indigenous people, they call them indigenous, whatever, or natives, also were put in mental asylums.
To understanding America in the 1800s is to understand just how many asylums were being built. Not just a small building, a little retreat, or a doctor's office, but we're discussing over 500 massive castle-like structures, usually built in a Kirkbride plan in large forested areas away from the public. These buildings employ the finest of European architectural designs, and most of these asylums, almshouses, and sanitation centers were later converted into prisons.
An entire tribe living in New York City, which is now Central Park, and they just put them in insane asylums and then rebuilt the park. Took their children and put them out for slave labor. That's basically what we're talking about here. I'm gonna sum this up a little faster, okay? So let's get to, that's a good video and it's available for you to watch. I highly recommend you watch the whole thing, but I'm not gonna spend much time on it because we're gonna get back to the art. Let's see, so.
Why, yes, it was.
They freed the slaves, but not really, because they just went into insane asylums. So their children, basically, there's a thing that happened to their children, and it's called the orphan trains. And there's many, many pictures like this. So let's just talk about this one. Let's see if I skip too much for you to understand. So all the people that were committed in insane asylums, which is what, 40%, that's half the population of America was committed into insane asylums, okay? It's crazy times that you're missing out of your history. Nobody's telling you in high school. And what happened is these children were sent on...
Not adults, children. The total number of homeless people was even higher. By 1850, the population of New York City was roughly 500,000 people. Of this number, over 30,000 were homeless children. That's 6% of the entire population, or over 1 in every 20 people in New York. It's haunting to imagine. And
what? Child labor. So you couldn't have a slave, but you could have child labor for a long, long, long time. Do you guys know that? America is built on child labor, just so you know. Orphan trains. That's what the Industrial Revolution is built on.
the end result.
Could, if you were rich or had even just the tiniest bit of money.
The children become indentured servant.
Okay, I'm just gonna sum this up so we can go back to the art. But I needed to like show you that. Did anybody know any of that? Some of you did? Okay, so basically, when we got rid of slavery, we just turned all the kids into slaves and locked up their parents in the same asylum. So that's how we did it. And it was through this organization, Children's Aid Society. So a lot of times the organizations that are like to help people aren't to help people, but you guys already know that. Be careful where you give your money to. Most of them are set up some of them are good, but they get hijacked. Okay, so we have orphan trains. So basically what happens is if you are a family and you can't have a slave, can't have an African American slave anymore in your house or any race, you can just go to the next orphan train that's driving through your village and pick out a couple kids. And all you have to do is feed them, give them a bedroom. And they will do everything for you. And businesses do it, factories do it, everything does it. And that's how America is built. Sorry, this is like... So you guys are familiar with these sort of photos, right? You've seen things like this before. Now this is what you call the Industrial Revolution. And this is what creates the counter move to that, which is the art. So please don't write in your little summary of me that I go off on tangents and I don't talk about, I wish you would just stick to the art, I had someone say. I show you this for a reason, because this is what creates the art. We can't create art because art doesn't exist. Art is a mirrored reflection of the society around it. I keep saying that, right? It doesn't exist as a thing, because this is art. So art is just a mirror. And what we are mirroring, or it's a movement, or it's a reaction to. That's what art is. It's a reaction to something and a reflection of. So what we have when we talk about Monet and Van Gogh and all the artists that we're going to look at right now, because we're going to lift our spirits from this depressing show that I just showed you, right? Is it a little depressing? I don't know, like, I just don't know why they don't teach, they teach about slavery, African American slavery in America, or Native Americans being thrown off their land, and they don't tell you, well, all their kids and all the other kids, so it wasn't a race, right? It's not Catholic, it's Catholics, it's Protestants, it's African Americans, and it's Native Americans. It's all of them are the kids who are the slaves who built the Industrial Revolution that we are in today. These children built our world. It's a very important part of our history, and if anybody becomes a teacher, this is the missing piece of the academic world, and I would love to hear your opinion on why, because I don't have the answer to that. Perhaps they're embarrassed. Child slavery is real. And it goes all the way through the 1920s and the 1930s, and it's not that long ago. And that's how our world is built, and this is the Industrial Revolution. Okay. So when the stock market crashed, you guys know all about that. You probably know more about that than I do, but anyone in economics. This is sort of part of that whole experience as well, and maybe it was intentional. Maybe there's some intention, because we want to have the poor poor and the rich rich, and we need slaves because our society runs off slavery. And these poor children, not only were they just massive amounts, but also they were also scientifically experimented on. Isn't that nice? I won't get too dark. All your medicine, not your medicine, our medicine, all the vaccines, everything that's part of our culture today, all the drugs, you name it, that's what the insane asylums could do to people, and they did. Okay, so I'm just gonna talk and show you some things. And one of the reasons I bring this up is because the circus was a big deal during this time as well. So remember I talked about the World Fairs? Well, everything that we just saw, that video, this is just the museum. I wanted to show you to you because these are the Ringling Brothers. They created the circus. They are the circus, the Ringling Brothers. And they were in Sarasota, Florida. This is their castle or home, which is now a museum. This is the ceiling on the wall. This museum actually is a collection of everything around the world at the time, and they were extremely rich, and there's questions if they didn't just steal, they kind of bought things, but they also, there's questions. But basically, they have a hodgepodge, so it's like Italian Renaissance, modern art, everything is there. And they started the Ringling Brothers Circus. So what was the circus? How did it start? What was on display at the circus? At the beginning? Anyone know?
Freaks.
Freaks, thank you. Who said that? Someone said that? Freaks. Freaks, what are freaks? Disabled people, people who are born with weird things going on their bodies, or really tall people, really short people, or just, they just made fun of people. And you know that from that movie. What was that movie? Yeah, that kind of summed it up a little bit, in the Hollywood style. But so these guys were the Ringling Brothers, and they brought all the money to Sarasota. They brought all the money to Florida. They brought all the art. That's why there's a beautiful, amazing art school there. The Ringling School of Design. And so this is their home. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it kind of goes along with the times, because this was 1920, around 1920 that they built this house, 1910. And I don't know if this shows too much stuff, but they had an entire garden. They had a whole garden there, and they have their circus there. And they brought the Renaissance to America. So some people say, they have this incredible collection of paintings there. So you don't really have to go to, Europe to see this amazing art. There's some in San Francisco too, and some of the main cities. I don't know that St. George, I don't know what St. George has, but there's just you can now spot these and tell me what style they are, right? With your new knowledge, you can see, what's that? Let's go back. I'll just out of curiosity. What's that? Oops, I didn't pause it fast enough. Let's test your skill set. What's that? What style? Anybody? Mannerism. See the long neck? What's that? Baroque. See the light? This is a real early Christian art. This is in the center of the museum, and I love this spot. I called it the Holy Grail of the museum because it's like this magical energy in there. It has the earliest art of the Christian times. Okay, so here we have, these are actually more Essene artwork. So when you talk about Christian art, we think the images of Christ on a cross. But actually, for a very long time, I'm kind of going back in time now, there were no images of Christ on a cross. That was hundreds of years later. It first started with just sort of images like this that are more mystical. And then it goes to the stories. This painting here is this is a quite phenomenal piece here. Let me get to it. Because it is humongous. It's the size of this wall. And it looks like fabric, but it's actually painted. So let's see if there's anything else I can test you on. What's that? It's kind of hard to see that painting. That would be Renaissance. And this one's a little questionable. Maybe it's Romanticism. Now we're not looking at dates, so we're just looking at pictures. This is early Christian. This is very much Renaissance. You see, that's Renaissance. This could be a little bit Baroque, high Renaissance. You see how it's a little bit over the top. Let's see. This is more like Gothic. I'm just kind of getting you a flavor, so when you guys go into a museum, you're going to be able to like spot these things yourself. This looks like Dutch, Northern Renaissance. Yeah. So now you are art, theory, intelligent. Ooh, that's a nice photo. That's me, and that's a room. All right, I just end here. Anyway, if you go to Florida, make sure you check that museum out. So let's go back. It also has tons of modern art too. This is the Ringling Brothers. They created the circus and they brought a lot of money into the art world. Yes?
Oh, with Renaissance? I thought it was like marrying, but is it also including just somebody holding someone, or how do you tell?
How do you tell if it's Mary?
But no. How do you tell if it's a Renaissance painting?
Well, Renaissance has a wide variety of different styles in it. So it has, you can tell by eliminating the other styles. That's how you can do it. It's pretty much just classical, beautiful art. It can have different subject matters, but it usually has a Christian or a Greek mythology subject matter. Rarely does it does have some portraits. Curious, who found the information about the orphan trains interesting yet? Who found it irrelevant? Who wants to be honest? You could be honest, I'm not gonna get offended. So this movement here is a reaction to everything I just told you. That's what it is. Then we have the beginning of sort of advertising. This is the beginning of, it goes along with, this artist goes along, I'm afraid to touch anything on this computer, it's gonna take so long to load. This artist goes along with the Ringling Brothers because you can see that it's like, okay, this is, how do you say this? Who's French? You know how to say his name? Okay, so you can see he's kind of dressed up in like a circus. I'm really bad with pronouncing names, so I'm not gonna try. So this is the artist, and you can see he kind of is, oh, there's some nudity. It's okay, we're in college, right? I showed you this last time. This is a time of rebelling against the chaos. We're getting to a point where people are rebelling and sort of expressing themselves in a way that's a little chaotic themselves, because the world is quite chaotic. And there's a lot of things going on. How do I get this out of the way? Okay, there's a lot of things going on. And one of the things, like here we have the cabarets, one of the things is alcohol and trying to escape the world that is very dark. We're in a dark world right now. The 1920s is not like a beautiful haven. It is not. We have a lot of things going on that I just showed you. We have a lot of slavery. We have children who are slaves. We have women who don't have rights, and and they want them. And so we have a lot of escapism, and that's what the art represents: an escape from reality, of the harsh reality of the world, which is the Industrial Revolution. That Industrial Revolution is a nasty thing, okay? It didn't come on very pretty. It came on really aggressive, and it basically built our world very, very fast. So this is all a reaction to that. Test later, this is not on the test now. We're kind of like have a delayed reaction, like my computer. So we're going to be doing a test. So now your test is actually on everything I taught before, and I'm not teaching at this current moment in time. Is that understood? Okay. So this will be on a test later. So we're talking about Fauvism. I want you to be able to recognize these modern art periods. Okay. So what is special about this? Who knows anything about Matisse? About his art? This looks really different, right, than what we've seen so far. It's very different. And a lot of these artists, like Matisse and whatnot, they studied at the academia. So they studied realistic painting, like they would paint models and they would paint real life, still lives, and they were actually quite good. And then they were like rebelling. They were different, and they were like, F the system, right? That's their attitude. So they were rebels. But you still have like a lot of modern art, like a lot of like classical art going on. But they refused, right? We talked about the Salon of the Refused. They refused to participate, and they wanted to rebel. And Fauvism is basically it's just a fad. It's just a fad. It's a very short fad, and it didn't last long. Just like Cubism, Fauvism is like Cubism, so know the word. Fauvism, I'm not going to do the dates, but we're talking turn of the century here. We're talking a reaction to the nightmare that's going on in the world and an expression of individuality. So this is Matisse, and Matisse is an individual person, and he is expressing himself in an individual way. And then people copy him, because that's how fads work. He does a lot of paper cutouts, and he's very childlike and bright colors. And then we have Cubism, with Picasso as the leader of the Cubism movement. Does everybody know Picasso? Has everybody heard of some Picasso? Okay, so Picasso's pretty darn famous. But there's lots of Cubist artists out there. He's just the inventor of Cubism. He's the generator. But he also did lots of other things. Like he painted like Monet at first. He painted Impressionism. He also painted realism. So this is just this is what he's known for. Let's go to the Picasso slideshow. Oops. Oh, touch anything here and it's like. All right, let's look at Picasso. When we have a world outside that's going is unstable. Is your world stable right now? Do you feel stable? Do you feel like you're gonna have money in the bank in 5 years? You will? Some people feel more stable than others, but generally this world they lived in, I'd say, was a lot less stable than ours, even though we are in war and we have some issues with the financial collapse that's happening. It's not the same as this. This is real instability. So we have Picasso expressing himself in this way, and he also traveled a lot. So he went to Africa, and a lot of his artwork represents or mimics the kind of the things he saw. And in Paris, let's see what else we have. This is borrowed from someone, so I have to. Okay. So he did a lot of stuff with just experimentation. This is all experimentation. And some people might not think it's very pretty. Or it is pretty to some people. So like the question of beauty comes up a lot. Like the Renaissance was beautiful. Like there wasn't really a question, was the Renaissance beautiful? That's like, is a flower pretty? Now we're like, is this pretty? Is this interesting? Is this compelling? What is it? It's different, right? It's not about beauty actually at all. It's about something totally different. It's about being different, and how different can you be? And their lifestyles were very different as well. A lot of these artists during this time, they had many lovers. They were married sometimes, and they were like maybe what you would call polyamorous. They had, everybody knows what that means, right? Some people don't. That means they have multiple partners. They were really kicking the system. They were really like against there's a whole group of them actually, and that we're gonna get into that because that's like the Surrealist movement. All of these people, they were all kind of reacting off each other, and they were in Paris and they were in New York. Those were the main places they were. This is where their art was displayed and accepted. And their lifestyles were sort of accepted or odd or talked about. What do you guys, does anybody really like Picasso? So you can see his art has a lot of variations, and there's lots of stories about him as well. They're kind of nightmarish, some of these images, but remember what's going on in the world. That's why I show you what's going on in the world, because this doesn't really make sense unless you know what's going on in the world, does it? Now that you know what sort of was happening in America, and that was happening in Europe because those orphan trains, it wasn't just an American thing, you can understand the expression of the artwork. Modern is a little strange, isn't it? What's modern? What does modern mean? I want that load. What does modern mean? New, yes. What? Right now. That's what modern means, right now. Current. Modern is current. So what was modern art? It was the newest, most current fad in the world. And it's going to, I'm just gonna have to shut this down. Let's see. This happened last time I did this too, so. Okay, we're gonna turn this off. We're gonna go to PC. Sorry, guys. Who's a psychology major? Oh, one? Just one? The SU has a huge psychology department. It goes all the way up to PhD, and you can skip. You guys know that? You can go through, get your doctorate without getting a master's. It's like a trick. It's the only degree program that you can do that with. I highly recommend it. Anyway, so psychology goes along with this era, and I'm gonna get into that more on Thursday. That's pretty much what we're gonna focus on, is psychology. So Jung and Freud. Who knows Freud? Who's heard of Freud? Besides you guys, raise your hand. Y'all heard of Freud? Sigmund Freud? Okay, so when you lie down on a couch and you tell somebody your problems, he invented that. Couch therapy, it's called. He invented that. So that would be like Freud. So what is Surrealist art? Do you guys know Dali, Salvador Dali? And this is artwork. You all know who he is now, right? You recognize his artwork? You don't recognize his artwork. He's one of the most famous. This is one of the most famous paintings ever. The clock, the melting clocks. But it's a video. It's where you can go to this day and you can see all of these artists. There's actually a train that you can get on, and it will take you on a little tour to all of these artists that I'm talking about right now, because they all start in Paris. It's the hub of this era, and there's like a whole thing happening. It's not just artwork. There's a whole thing. Like, who knows Henry and June? Nobody knows that probably. But there's like poets and writers at this time that come out, and there's a lot of like expression as far as, do you know Edith Piaf? Has ever heard Edith Piaf play music? I'm just gonna play her music real quick. Does anybody know Edith Piaf? Ever heard?
On se rappelle les chansons, un soir d'hiver imprévisable, la scène en marchant de l'avant, une chambre au 5e étage, les cafétéraimes du matin, Montparnasse sur le café du Dôme, les pauvres le quartier la
This is impressionist art.
les tuileries
We're going back a little bit, but it never ends, okay? Impressionism doesn't die. You can still have impressionist artists today. Okay, so all of these fads that I'm talking about that are modern, they're still modern today. So you have artists making cubist art all the time. You have artists making impressionist art all the time. We go to school and we study these artists, and then we copy them. That's what art students do. So this is the music. This is French Edith Piaf. She's beautiful. This is a very also romantic time in many ways, as far as like things like writings. We have Henry Miller. Do you guys know him? He's an author, and he's married. There's a story, okay, and this happens in Paris. Like, he's married to this woman named June, and there's a movie about it. It's called Henry and June, if you're into this kind of stuff. And then they have a love affair with another woman who's a poet, and she, Anais Nin is her name, and she writes this whole thing. Like, it's a time period of exploration, and there's no rules anymore. It's not, romantic is not the word, okay? Maybe sensual or expressionary or experimental is the word for this time period. A lot of writers and authors, and a lot of like liberation, so like sexual liberation, so people who are like gay or bi, or like it's a liberating time, so people are expressing themselves in that manner, and they're not getting a lot of kickback as they would before. So it's like there's still like Christian groups and more conservative people, but now there's like a flourishing and a development of bohemians, maybe is the word. Whether you agree with them or not, it doesn't matter. I'm just showing you what was happening. And this is part of that art movement. So you can't look at any of these artists and not know a little bit about their story because they were so radical. Okay. You can definitely do your thesis on something more modern, even if we haven't covered it. I'm obviously not going to cover every single artist, right? Or even every single art period. I can't. So we have Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, Art Nouveau, Minimalism, and Visionary Art, Expressionism, Futurism, Abstract Expressionism, Opt Art, on and on and on. Okay. This slideshow has 80 slides in it. So my little head pops up because I'm on another one. Okay, I want to get to this, and then I think this is where we'll stop. Who's ever heard of this? Yeah? A question, or you've heard of it? You've heard of it? Okay, so this is futurism. I'm actually going to show the video right now. It's really short, but it's really important because it goes along with what I was talking about. So this is 5 minutes. I'm going to show this video. But before I do, I just want to say a couple words on it. World War I. That's the words I want to say. Who's a history buff? History buffs? Good. You can fact check me because I'm not a history buff. I'm an art history buff. So if I ever say anything wrong, tell me, please. I'm actually just, art history is my thing, and then there's history. And history, you really go into all the little details of every war and stuff. But we're in World War I, and this is a reaction to World War I, and it's called futurism, and it's a fad. However, you could almost call today's art futurism. Think about that. We're gonna watch this for a second. That's futurism. What time is it? Is it time to go? Oh no, we still have 3 more minutes. That's futurism, and I just want to talk about futurism for 2 seconds, so give me 2 seconds, okay? Basically, what I want to say is that what she just said in this video is that there's an art movement that embraced technology, and there's an art movement that did not embrace technology. So if you think of Van Gogh, he's at the same time. Van Gogh did not embrace technology. In fact, he drank his way out of it. That's what he did. And he painted sunflowers all day long. And there was a whole bunch of Van Goghs, not just one Van Gogh. Okay, lots of artists like that just sat in the hayfields and just painted and painted and painted. And it's a little earlier, but it's sort of the same concept. Okay, he was alive during this time. So we have a group that wants art that shows off the new tech, and one that doesn't. And aren't we kind of there today? A little bit. We have the people who embrace AI and the people who hate AI. They go up and they raise goats and they homestead. And they're very much against AI. There's a lot of them, just so you know. So not everybody in this world embraces technology or loves technology. In fact, a lot of people hate it. Same thing then.